recording is to demonstrate how users will interact with my Rails application, Ocdefeat. This application allows patients and therapists to collaborate in the development of exposure and response prevention, or ERP plans, which is a therapy technique that is commonly used in the treatment of obsessive compulsive disorder, or OCD. And the main idea behind ERP is that through repeated exposure to their triggers, patients will ultimately become habituated and even desensitized to fearful stimuli. So I'm going to go ahead and log in as patient Raymond, patient1 at ocdefeat.com, input the password, and from his profile page, patient Raymond can record a new obsession in his obsessions log. So Raymond has been very preoccupied with the OCD theme of contamination, namely insect-borne diseases and infections. So he will record the obsession, what if I get bitten by a tick and contract Lyme disease? And his obsession is triggered by spending time outdoors. It consumes 3 hours of his time on a daily basis, and he experiences peak anxiety at level 5, let's say. How, if at all, does your OCD manifest physically? Raymond experiences the physical symptoms of itchiness. We'll just say itchiness. And what rituals do you engage in to undo the discomfort produced by your obsession? I am constantly scrutinizing my skin to detect insect bites, going to the dermatologist to see for a skin exam, wearing long sleeve shirts in warm weather, and constantly applying bug spray. We'll shorten this to just, I'm constantly scrutinizing my skin to detect a bullseye patterned rash. Okay, and this pertains to the OCD theme of contamination. So Raymond records his new obsession, and from the obsession show page, Raymond can read comments on this obsession. No comments were found, so we can go back to the obsession and actually add a comment. So, I went on a hike and forgot to apply bug spray. I think I have an insect bite, but it could be from a mosquito. I'm not sure. So Raymond can share his troubles, and Raymond can actually edit his comment. If he doesn't add anything in the box and he just tries to share his troubles, we will see that Raymond receives the error that the content of a comment cannot be blank. So Raymond, we add the comment back in and Raymond modifies it. I think I have an insect bite, but it could be from a mosquito. I'm not sure. Speaking of which, when was the last West Nile outbreak? So Raymond shares his troubles. His comment was successfully modified, and now we can log out and sign in as Raymond's therapist, whom he has been assigned by the admin, prior to recording this video, psychologist at ocdefeat.com, psychology. So Raymond's psychologist, Dr. Therapinski, can go to the obsessions log to view the obsessions that were recorded by all of the therapist patients, and he can filter obsessions. Currently, there's only one obsession, but if he wanted to see all obsessions reported by Raymond, he can filter Raymond's obsessions and see that patient Raymond has one obsession, and down here, what if I get bitten by a tick and contract Lyme disease? So now, from the therapist standpoint of viewing the patient's obsession, he can see that the patient's most recent concern to address was, I went on a hike and forgot to apply bug spray. I think I have an insect bite, but it could be from a mosquito. I'm not sure. Speaking of which, when was the last West Nile outbreak? So Dr. Therapinski can now provide advice, and he can tell the patient, accept the uncertainty that you got bitten by a tick when you went on the hike without applying insect repellent. And he can share his advice. And now, thank you for sharing your advice about overcoming this obsession. We can now filter comments by advice, by patient concerns. Patient Raymond voiced one concern about this obsession, and advice from therapists, filter comments. Raymond should bear one therapy pointer in mind when overcoming this obsession, and that was provided by Dr. Theodore Therapinski. So if I log out and I log in as patient Raymond again, Raymond can go to the obsession show page, what if I get bitten by a tick and contract Lyme disease, and he can create an exposure and response prevention plan to overcome this obsession from this obsession show page. So we click create plan, and the title of Raymond's plan will be tick bite plan, and the intended goal is to develop anxiety tolerance. And Raymond will construct a progression of exposures to gradually face his fears, from the exposure exercise that elicits the least discomfort to the most challenging exposure exercise, which will be the last step in his plan. So Raymond creates the plan. You successfully created the ERP plan entitled Tick Bite Plan. And we should note that if patient Raymond creates an ERP plan and before adding any step to the plan, he decides that he wants to try to mark this ERP plan as finished and check the checkbox, we will accordingly get the error message, your attempt to edit this ERP plan was unsuccessful, please try again. Finished is not a valid status for a plan that has no steps or incomplete steps. A plan can only be performed if it contains steps. Delineate the steps to be taken here. So Raymond can, he can actually modify the overview of his plan in this area if he wants to. So he can call it Tick Bite Lyme Disease Plan if he really wanted to. And then he would just be updating the overview of the plan. An overview of this ERP plan was successfully updated, but he can also delineate the steps from the plan show page, as I had previously showed the audience. So the first step of Raymond's tick bite plan, in a procedural fashion, explain how to perform this exercise. Okay, look at photographs of ticks in your field guide to insects and tolerate the ensuing discomfort. Okay, and Raymond will, the time frame for this exercise will be about 15 minutes. And Raymond creates the step. Now, a new step has been added to this ERP plan. Once again, we can see that if Raymond has populated his plan with steps, but he has not yet rated the discomfort that he experiences when performing the step and checked the box to indicate that the step is completed, and so there's now an incomplete step in the plan. If he decides he wants to try to mark the plan as finished, once again, we can see that we will get the error message. This ERP plan remains unfinished. A plan can only be marked as finished if all of its steps are completed. Execute exposure exercises here. So Raymond can go back to the plan, and let's say that Raymond wants to try to mark the step as completed, even though he has not yet rated his degree of discomfort. So he checks the box, and we get the error message. Your attempt to edit this ERP exercise was unsuccessful. Completed is a valid status only if you already rated your degree of discomfort when performing this step. So instead of just editing the degree of discomfort right away, Raymond wants to go back to his plan and actually add more steps to the plan. And then once all the steps have been added, he thinks that it would be best to rate the discomfort as he performs the steps. So the second step to the plan will be to go for a nature walk wearing a short sleeve shirt and pants, but do not tuck your pants into your socks, which Raymond does to avoid tick bites. So go for a nature walk wearing a short sleeve shirt and pants, but do not tuck your pants into your socks this time. And this will take about 30 minutes. So we will create this step. A new step has been added to this ERP plan. And as the third and final step, Raymond will go for a hike in the woods without applying bug spray. This time, approach a deer, which is often a breeding ground for ticks, and admire its beauty. And this will take Raymond about an hour. So as his activities become progressively more challenging, he's able to spend more time facing his fears. Okay, so we create this step, and now a new step has been added to this ERP plan. So as we said, Raymond must first rate the discomfort while performing each of the steps before he can mark the step as complete, or else he will get an error message. So Raymond rates the first step as peak discomfort, level 5, and he updates the step. You successfully modified a step in this ERP plan. Once the degree of discomfort has been inputted, Raymond can then check the box to indicate that he's completed the step. And we see the message, milestone accomplished, you're one step closer to defeating OCD. The step is also marked as complete with a checkbox, or with the check symbol in the circle. Step number 2, Raymond must rate his degree of discomfort. This time, after he performs a second exposure exercise, he experiences less discomfort at level 3. He updates the step, and only once he has added his degree of discomfort at level 3, he can check the box to indicate that this step has been completed, and he's done practicing this exposure exercise. And we see, once again, milestone accomplished, you're one step closer to defeating OCD. And the goal of ERP is that by the end of an exposure exercise, your anxiety will have significantly diminished. So by step 3 of the plan, Raymond rates his discomfort at level 1. He updates the step, and he checks that he's completed the step. And finally, now that all steps in the plan are completed, Raymond can mark the plan as finished. So if we click permanently mark this ERP plan as finished, congratulations on developing anxiety tolerance by finishing this ERP plan. Now, it should be noted that once a plan is marked as finished, it becomes ineditable because the patient is permanently archiving their plan in their therapy resources. So if the patient has marked an ERP plan as finished, but then decides that they want to try to uncheck the box, they will get an error message, you already accomplished and archived this ERP plan. And similarly, if a patient wants to view their ERP plan, but they want to try to uncheck the box, which indicates that a step is completed, they cannot undo this step. So they will get an error message. The steps that comprise an ERP plan cannot be changed once that plan is finished. So Raymond has completed his plan. He can also delete the plan. And then we'll see that Raymond has an obsession for which no plans were designed because we just deleted the only plan that he had used to target the obsession, what if I got bitten by a tick and contract Lyme disease? So we just saw previously that Raymond was redirected back to the obsession show page, or back to the, Raymond was redirected to the page where he can create a new plan for a specific obsession. So we can also see that, I'll show you a couple more features of this. As a psychologist, psychologists can add an OCD theme to the collection of common OCD themes. And so let's see, if the psychologist wanted to add the OCD theme of, let's see, what theme shall we add? We can say, okay, relationship OCD, define this theme. If the name is not self-explanatory, well, relationship OCD, this theme is characterized by constant doubts about one's capacity for love, constant doubts about one's relationship and capacity for love. Okay, create theme, and you added the OCD theme, relationship OCD, in which to classify your patients as obsessions. So, we can edit this theme. The title of the theme is ineditable. So if we say relationship OCD with an exclamation point, we can see that the name did not change, but we can edit the description of the theme. We can even update it to have no description if it's self-explanatory, as we see here. So the index of ERP plans, no ERP plans designed by your patients are found. The obsessions log, this is where the therapists can filter their patients using a keyword, a keyword contained in the intrusive thought that embodies the obsession. So if we type the word tick, we will get what if I get bitten by a tick. If we had said I want to find obsessions that evoke anxiety within the range of, let's say, 10, well, the patient did not experience peak anxiety at level 10 for that obsession, so no obsessions were found, but the patient reported anxiety at level 5 for that obsession. So we will see that when we filter it, anxiety within the range of minimum 5 and above, what if I get bitten by a tick and contract Lyme disease shows up. Now, let's say a user also wanted to sign up, so I'm going to register as a user named Rachel, and Rachel at ocdefeat.com, password. And Rachel wants to be a therapist in the Ocdefeat community, but she says that she has mild OCD even though she's a therapist, and she wants to describe her OCD diagnosis as both patritional and pure variants. So one thing to note is that the therapists, depending on what your role is, the data that you input must correspond. So we'll see in a moment that if we create this user, 2 errors prevented this user from being saved. Variant is not a valid variant of OCD for an admin or therapist. Severity is not a valid OCD severity for an admin or therapist. So this means that in order to be a therapist, Rachel has to input that she, her OCD severity is not applicable because she requested the role of therapist. It must correspond. The same goes for OCD variant. And we can describe your OCD treatment. Aspiring therapists describe the efficacy of the treatment plans you implement based on patient outcomes. So, this therapist can say that she, in her practice, she implements exposure and response prevention. The efficacy is challenging, but works wonders for patients. And the next treatment, she can either select treatment or input one. So this time she'll select selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, and the efficacy is most efficacious when used in conjunction with ERP. And patients, so patients often undergo exposure and response prevention for months to years. Selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SSRIs, this medication can be prescribed on a lifelong basis, actually. And finally, let's say that is what this user inputted. Password can't be blank. At this point, Rachel has created a preliminary profile. The role she requested is an admin, but now I can log out and I must log in as the admin to approve this role. So from the managing account page, we see that Rachel is a therapist to be. She's awaiting role assignment, and we can assign her the role of therapist formally as the admin. Click revise role. Rachel was successfully assigned to the role of therapist. Admins can also delete accounts. And let's say we want to log in, but we can log in through Twitter. So I am logging in through Twitter right now. Twitter users will automatically sign in as patients. You automatically registered as a patient with mild traditional OCD. Feel free to request a different role and or edit the details of your diagnosis here. So I can actually say that I am requesting the role of therapist, and that these fields must correspond once again. I am updating that information. I can log out, sign in as the admin once again, and I can click Manage User Accounts. I see that Jenna wanted to be a therapist, so I am assigning her the role of therapist, and Jenna was successfully assigned the role of therapist. Now, lastly, if I want to sign in as a patient, I can sign up as a patient named Eliza at ocdefeat.com, and my password. Okay, I'm requesting the role of patient. the severity of my OCD is mild, and I have traditional OCD. And my OCD treatment, okay, in the past I have only undergone, she can input treatment. So she's only undergone Freudian psychoanalysis. The efficacy was very unhelpful. The duration was 1 day. And then she also underwent talk therapy. And we can actually select that. So you can either select treatment or add your own. So talk therapy, is that offered? Okay, well, psychotherapy is similar, but we'll just input talk therapy. The efficacy is helpful to confide in someone you trust. And the duration, she did this for about 3 months. So the user Eliza is now created. She has requested the role of patient. And as a preliminary user, she can still view the ERP overview and common OCD themes to discover the prevalence of a theme in patients. The admin can sign in, and once again, the admin can approve her role as patient. Eliza, the patient, was successfully assigned the role of patient, and as a patient, as opposed to being a therapist or an admin, you are able to be assigned to a specific therapist. So the admin can assign patient Eliza to Dr. Theodore Therapinski, Dr. Simon Psychiatritsky, Rachel, or myself, Jenna. So I'm going to assign Eliza, the patient, to Dr. Theodore Therapinski. Patient Eliza, the patient, is now under the care of Dr. Theodore Therapinski. And if Dr. Theodore Therapinski signs in, we can see that in his patient census, he has 2 patients. 2 patients are currently seeking his psychological expertise. If he wants to filter patients, by those who reported new obsessions today, we will only see Raymond in the data. Patients who reported new obsessions yesterday, nobody will show up. Nobody shows up. And we can see that there are the clinical presentation of OCD in patients, symptomatic patients, patients who are not obsessing. Eliza never reported obsessions. Patients with an obsession that lacks an ERP plan, Raymond, because he had reported the obsession about the tic, but then we deleted the ERP plan that we had formerly created. So in short, that is my application Ocdefeat. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed.